Therapists can definitely be very inappropriate. There's a lot of inappropriate and bad therapists and psychiatrists and mental health professionals in the profession. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed mental health professional, and I have been so for several years now. I want to respond to this comment. I've had 3 deeply inappropriate therapists. I hate to say it, but this is actually a common occurrence for people. I can't tell you how many people have come to me and they're just like, oh my God, you're a breath of fresh air, Dr. Jones. I can't tell you, anything from a therapist falling asleep to a therapist being sexually inappropriate, from a therapist, not showing up, to any number of things. And I get it. People are human. But there's a lot of people that go into, as she also says further down in this comment, there's a lot of people that go into therapy or the mental health professional to discover more about themselves. And I'm not saying that discovering more about yourself is a bad thing, but you have to have more of a passion and a motivation behind that. And you do your own work on your own time. And not only that, I think I'm a firm believer that if you're in this profession in any capacity, you need to be getting your own counseling while you're counseling other people, because your growth and your potential as a licensed mental health professional in any capacity, it's only as good as your own growth. So if you only do a little bit, the requirement for grad school, and then you bow out, your growth stops there. Your interpersonal work stops there. You have to have, this checks and balances system of having someone to keep you objective. And I love coaches and everything like that. I think they're great, but they are not the same, and it should not be a substitute. So I'm going to make that clear. That's my belief. You don't have to agree with it, but that's my belief. You need a licensed person. Not only do you need a licensed person to do your own counseling with, but you need a licensed professional that you need to be consulting with on a regular basis as you work, as you do your work. Especially if you're like me, I take on, I do court work, so I may have some variation here and there, and so I do have people that I regularly and consistently consult with, even no matter how long I've been in a field, because I trust them. So I always have at least a minimum of 2 to 3 people that I know that are really good and that have way more expertise than I do, that can always advise me when I'm feeling very confused. And so, and I people ask me that all the time when I go to court. Dr. Jones, did you consult with anybody about this? Who did you consult with, and why did you consult with them? And I share very candidly. I wanted to make sure that I'm being as unbiased as possible, right? And it's not that I'm disclosing clients' business. It's just that the field is ever changing. There may be something new, or you just want to be the best version of yourself and show up in your clients in the best way possible that you can, so that you don't have silly stuff like this. You also need to go check the back pages of the Marriage and Family Therapy, the American Counseling Association, NASW, the Medical Board, all these things. Always go check the back pages of their newsletters, because they're gonna have pictures, they're gonna have descriptions of the things that licensed mental health, the inappropriate stuff that licensed mental health professionals have done, and what they've got their license suspended for, or what they've got their license restricted for. And unfortunately, I've seen too many colleagues to count, but that does happen. I also think a lot of people go into this profession. What I noticed towards the end of my grad school career, there were too many people that were going into psychology is almost like a throwaway subject. Like I failed going to med school. I failed biology. I failed chemistry. I failed English. So I just figured I'd get a degree in psychology, and it's just whatever. It's more like it's a hobby for them. It's not really like something that you want to take seriously, and unfortunately admissions of universities have allowed it, right? Because these people are very candid. They don't care, and it's just like, I'm just here to kind of see what happens, sort of rolling with it. It's not more of a deep passion, and I do think, unfortunately, that leads to people that kind of can carry that mindset on. But I also think not enough people get consult or do mentorship. But I also think, some of the other things that I've seen is there's not, especially when this is not me being biased, but I think when it comes to particular races within the professions, what I've noticed is that there are a lot of people culturally who get a pass for not showing up in the way that they need to. There's people that get judged critically, right? Much more critically or harshly if you're black or brown. I'm just going to put it out there. This is my observation and what I've seen. I won't say that this is always the case, but just in a lot of cases. But I've also seen people that don't show up well, who are white, that don't show up well or at all, that don't get checked enough. And I've noticed that even as a practicum student or as an intern, especially when I've worked with male supervisors who were sexually inappropriate, and I myself reported them, and they didn't get anything, right? There's no accountability for that. And that often happens where there's so many red flags, just where people will overlook it because they are white, because they are male, because, they've been in the field and we just need somebody to work here. We don't care what they're showing up. I've seen it where people have shown up drunk or inebriated, and we all know it. We could smell it on them, or we could see that they're out of their mind, but organizations will allow it. And so that's unfortunate, because a lot of times there will be reports and things like that, but people don't take it seriously. And so I would say when people are inappropriate like that, there does need to be a stricter and a harsher checks and balances. Every state is also different in what they allow. So I do think there needs to be more uniformity among states, because some states are way more lenient than others. So it's, sometimes when people don't do well in a much more, in a state that has stricter policies, they can maybe skip over and go to another state and be just fine, because they're much more lenient in what they allow. But I definitely think there's way too much that lets go. And I say this as a therapist myself, who has a degree in psychology. There's way too much that people get away with. In fact, I've had to kind of take a step back from being around so many colleagues, just because of behaviors that concern me. And again, this goes outside of corrections, because I've worked in corrections, but just in general across the board, where people just kind of show up anyway, anyhow that they want to. And I've also been on the other side of it, where I've counseled people and I've mentored people, and I've told them, like, this is what you need to do. I've also been on the other side of it too, where I've been a clinician to psychiatrists and medical doctors and other people, where I said, listen, you are a threat to your community, and I don't think that you should be practicing right now. And I do think that a report needs to be made to your board. People don't like that, and they don't have to like it, but at the end of the day, they have to respect it, because I have enough clinical documentation and expertise to back up what I'm saying when I say that you're putting the population at harm. And that's what boards are for. They're supposed to protect the general public from harm from clinicians. Thank you for this.